This is Do It For a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I think you just have to under-promise and over-give. Like, don't tell the guy it's going to be done Friday if you don't think it's going to be done. Tell him it's going to be done Monday, but get it done Friday. And stand by your word.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It For a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Hey, Do It For a Living. This is Todd Ersley, and today I'm here with Jason Whitfield of Whitfield Company, and he's kind of a staple and, kind of started with the Honda crew and has expanded his business to lots of manufacturing and working on lots of different race cars and building roll cages and manifolds and all kinds of cool, race car fab stuff. So, Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Todd. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing excellent. It's really excited to have you on board. Tell us about, your background and your business and kind of really what got you started in this industry.
Wow, that's a great opportunity. I appreciate it. So what got me started? I mean, just the love for cars and the challenges of we weren't the smartest kids back in high school. So, some street racing here and there, and had to figure out how to start fixing our own cars when we didn't have, a huge amount of money to spend on them. So we had to kind of get hands-on ourselves. And that just kind of snowballed into 20 plus years of having a business that's been really good, been really good for us. And we've learned a lot of different things. And I'd really just say working on cars with our buddies,
Yep.
Maybe even before that, starting on your bicycles and changing the wheels with your buddy or your skateboard and, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've had a lot of guests start at like pedal bikes, like doing little pedal bike stuff. And then, they grow up from when they get their license, it usually transitions to that. So did you have a love of cars right from the day you got your license?
Oh, absolutely. Even before, the pedal bike, it's kind of a funny thing to say. Like I would get in trouble from my mom because I would charge the neighborhood kids to paint their bikes and stuff. And she hated it because, of course, all the parents are like, why is your kid charging money for that? So I actually bought my first car when I was like 14 and a half, maybe 15. I sold a dirt bike I had and I bought a 1969 Volkswagen Bug. So it was just nonstop. I mean, the second I could get my car, my hands on the car, we just started working on it, and every dollar I could make went into it. So
what were you doing for work back then?
So 14, I want to say I had like a typical paper route, back in the day when there was actually paper. So we had a paper route, and then I was doing like 8 or 10 lawns in the neighborhood. And then I think I did maybe 5 or 6 neighbors would let me wash their cars on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then like I said, I would just try to hustle anything from the kids in the neighborhood. We would skateboard. So I'd make ramps and I'd sell ramps and I would, sell my old skateboard parts or re-grip tape their board because they didn't know how to do it or anything I could make a buck on. And then just anything I could buy for the Volkswagen, my little Bug, I would just, anything I could buy. It didn't matter. Any piece of chrome back then I would buy.
And then during high school, did you keep that car or did you start working on other stuff?
Yeah, so I had the Bug until I would say my senior year, probably mid through my senior year. And I was actually I worked at, I had a job at Marie Callender's and I was still doing like side jobs and kind of pretty much anything I could do to make money. And I ended up buying a Mazda truck, I can't remember the year, but a B2200 Mazda truck. And we started lowering that. So we just kind of got into trucks, and I had a really, really good friend back then. His name's Sean Carlson. And we were building stuff in his garage with his parents. They just let us kind of have the run of the garage at 16, 17. They didn't really mind. Mm-hmm. And he was a year or two older than me. So, he was building stuff about the same time. We just started building stuff together. And then we had little car clubs and all that, typical mini truck stuff and all that kind of stuff. And Sean was much more advanced at that age than I was. So I was just learning from him, the most I could. And we were building my Bug at the same time as my Mazda truck. And then we started getting into hydraulics and we were doing those. And then we lifted it and we lowered it. It was nonstop. It was
It's
just,
all over the place, huh?
yeah, and same with his stuff. I mean, he had a bunch of cars we were building, and then he got a job at it would be McMullen Publishing, which was like mini trucking and lowrider.
Okay.
They owned all of that. So it was just, we started getting ins with all these people for free parts. If we did pictures and tech articles back in the day there wasn't a social media. So you're waiting for magazines,
Yeah.
so we started getting parts and nonstop from there.
And so, like, just kind of want to know, like, it sounds like all of this was self-taught, like what all were you like fabricating stuff with sheet metal and, bending hydraulic lines and everything?
Wow. So I would say a lot of it was, so Sean was, like I said, he was super advanced. I mean, like the guy just, when I was, a freshman and sophomore, he was, I think, a year or two older than me, and he always had the cool truck. It was always lifted. Then it was lowered one week, and then it had a big stereo system. Then it had hydraulics. So, becoming friends with him my freshman, sophomore year, and then hanging out at his house all the time, I was just learning. So self-taught at the same time, but he was also showing me things and kind of just putting me to work. I mean, the first thing I ever welded was his parents' fence. Like, hey, weld my dad's fence for me, and we'll work on your truck. Okay. So self-taught, but yet still with him, and trial and error. But we were just doing, like the hydraulics on my truck, and then we would go buy the stuff, and it was like, let's figure it out. I mean, the first car we turbocharged was the car I bought after the Mazda truck, and we literally just made the manifold in the garage, kind of looked at a bunch of pictures. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of, import stuff back then. This is, mid 90s, late 90s. So we would just look at big V8 cars, and okay, they ran all the cylinders into one, and okay, they got a wastegate. We'll buy that from this guy. And it was just trial and error. I mean, literally trial and error, like literally, like there's no other way to put it.
Over and over again
with lots of error.
Yeah. Did you go to college?
So I tried. I graduated from high school at 17. I did really well. It was pretty easy for me. Like I didn't really have to study much. I mean, normal classes are just really easy. I played sports, whatever. And then it was, you got to go to college. Okay, but what am I going to go to college for? Mm-hmm. So I just went to a local, college by us out here where we live. And I did like an automotive class and a history class and a business class and all these classes. And I did the first year, and I was like, wow, this is just a waste. To me, it felt like a waste of time because I would leave school, and at that time I had already had an apartment on my own, and I had 2-car garage, and then I'd have at least 1 or 2 cars in the street that I was working on for customers. So it was that draw to be home because I could make money. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard for me to stay in school. So I just kind of stopped after that first year. I was over it. Me and Sean would do a lot of stuff out of his garage. Like I said, his parents had a 3-car garage, so we could do pretty much anything we wanted. I mean, we had our cars there, but then we bring in a customer car. And back then it wasn't like it is now. I mean, you could tell a guy whatever the price was, and that's what they paid. I mean, there wasn't the haggling of different people in different garages and different shops and, these websites where you can get parts for nothing, super cheap. We just set a price. The customer would say yes or no. And it was pure profit to us because we didn't have any overhead.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, we're working in his parents'
good old days.
Right. So we're in his parents' garage, 3-car garage, huge. He would work at McMullen in August during the day, and then I had a job at a warehouse, and then we'd meet up midday, and then we so-and-so would bring his car over, whether we'd make him headers or lower it, or, pretty much all performance. I mean, we did some maintenance stuff, but pretty much performance stuff. And we weren't scared. Well, he wasn't scared, and I just kind of followed him. He wasn't scared to cut your car in half. He didn't care. We would cut it in half and do whatever you wanted. And so I just kind of followed suit and learned, and we were making, and to us at that time, it felt like a lot of money. And especially we both had jobs as well. So, you're getting, I don't know, back then, you make $500-600 cash in your pocket on a week, like on the side. It's like, oh my gosh,
great,
wow, that was amazing. And it was fun because, like I said, his parents didn't charge us. We had a garage, 3-car garage, pretty good size. We worked until, late, 2 o'clock in the morning. We didn't care. We didn't have any responsibilities. It was just make money. So we kind of would work on anything we had to then. And then it got to a point where, I would say when I was around 20-ish, he was 20, 21. He was really, he passed away about 6 years ago, but he was really well known in the sport compact market. I mean, he worked for Turbo Magazine. He was the main editor, main photographer of the covers. I mean, he would build all the cars that they would do in there. And he just became really well known where he actually got a bunch of contracts for different companies to build cars. So he actually got his own building. And the plan was for me to move in with him and kind of do work together. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like, I kind of wanted to do my own thing. Like I loved him. We're great friends, and I loved doing business with him. We never had any issues. It just kind of felt like I kind of wanted to have my own shop, and he has his own shop. And so I took $600 that I had, and I found some guy local that would rent me a building month to month. And it was $600, and honestly, it was like $690 a month. Gave him the 600. I said, I'll be back in a week, and I found the other money, and then it was just kind of month to month from there. And we both had our own shops, and 22 years later, here we are.
So what was the name of the original shop that you started?
So Sean and I built a car together. I mean, it was my car, but we built it together. It's a really well known CRX. It was on the cover of Turbo magazine, which is one of the only Hondas, the first and only Hondas to be on the cover of Turbo magazines. They were very domestic back then.
Okay.
And it was a CRX. It was called the world's fastest 1.5. I don't even know why we chose to build that motor. It was what was in it when I bought it. I actually bought it to be like a little commuter because my Mazda and my Bug and every other car
was always being worked on.
Right, it was always torn apart. So I bought this little CRX from Speed Trends factory. It was like $3,500, first car I ever financed, the whole nine. Cool little lowered black CRX, and of course we have to tear that apart as well. So it just got out of control, and Turbo Magazine obviously could get us any part we wanted for either nothing or a tech article. So here's an MSD, here's a turbo, here's a clutch, just do a tech article. So we'd shoot some pictures, write a quick ad, and they'd put it in the magazine. We get free parts. So we started building this car. It got a little out of control. Long story short, sticker company that would do all my stickers for all the races we would go to was Garage Graphics. And this guy was doing stickers out of his garage. Well, I changed the stickers every event, and one of my guys pulls off the beginning of Garage and leaves Rage Graphics. And I'm like, great. And I just named the shop Rage Performance. That's my story. Yeah. I know that's a horrible, weird story, but that's my story. I called the shop Rage Performance. I came up with all these weird reasons, like rage, like you're making a lot of power, rage, like you're a racer. That's the truth. That's just the way it is. Hey,
honestly, that's a pretty good name.
It was a cool, and I still own the name now. I still own the company name, and we still use it for some little things here and there, but it was just, that's what we called it. So the city was weird. The city made us put a sign up on this guy's building when I rented it, and I was like, wow, I got to put a sign up. And when I put the sign up, he said, you got to have a name. Okay, so it's Rage Performance. So we put that sign up, and it just stuck. It just stuck. I don't know.
So that was in your first little shop space, huh?
Right. Well, he had a shop in Ontario. I was in Upland. So that shop was not even 800, probably not even 1,000 square feet. Just a little shop, Rage Performance off of Central and the 10 freeway.
Nice.
Yep.
And so then what was the next step? So like after you kind of split off and you did your own little shop, what was the next phase? So what kind of cars were you bringing in, and what were you working on? So
that was the point where I was still working. I had a job at night at Target warehouse. I was a forklift operator, making, again, back then I thought it was great money. So making good money. And I would work from, I want to say it was like 4 p.m. to like 2 or 3 a.m. And then I'd go home and get a couple hours sleep, and then I'd go to the shop, and I had one employee that would be there. And we would work on pretty much we just thought we were just Honda Acura only. So, clutches and nitrous, back then it was nitrous kits, clutches, intakes, HID lights, lowering, wheels and tires. Very rarely did a guy want to do cams or anything, back then aggressive like that. Headers, DC headers were huge. So, in the morning I'd get up, I'd be up by like 8 or 9. He'd call me and let me know what parts we needed. I'd run around town, grab everything I needed. And we'd get to the shop. We'd work until, whatever time. Then I'd go to work, and then he'd stay a couple more hours. But it was predominantly just Hondas. Honda Acura. That's all we thought we could do. You know what I mean? We didn't know we could branch out. We were kind of, we were scared to try anything new, really. I mean, back then it was just whatever we could make quick money on. That's all, because it was still quick money to us, because I still had
you had a real job.
Yeah, quote unquote real job.
Yeah.
So my money was paid. I had insurance through the job. Was paying all my bills, all my rent. I had a nice new truck, and everything was great. I didn't have a family or kids or anything, so it was just
working and having fun.
Yeah. I mean, it was the funnest part of finishing. Like back then, it was the little basic swaps. You do a swap. The funnest part was taking for the customer for a test drive.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, let's do this. Now I don't even go for test drives.
Yeah. So yeah, you get a little jaded after many years.
Exactly.
about what time frame was that when you got that first, that first space?
So my first car was on the cover of Turbo magazine in August of '98. So or April of '98, either April or August of '98. I can't remember. But we were building it for probably a year before that, and then. So when I would say the shop building was mid '97-ish, somewhere around '97. I want to say like October of '97 is when I actually got my first business license.
Okay.
It was either '96 or '97 was October. I know it was October. I don't know why I remember that, but that was my first, I went out, okay, I got to get a business license and a resale license and all that. So 96, 97. Wow, a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
It's dated myself there. Oof.
So you had one employee in your little shop. What did you move into a larger space?
So we had that shop for a while, and obviously we outgrew that. The owner was great. He didn't care. I mean, it was actually like 3 offices and then like a little bay. And then he let us tear down, slowly tear down one office after the next to get more room. And then we just got to a point where we just, we outgrew it. So we did it. We ended up doing it was just like my side deal. Like I thought it was just for fun. So we started looking around and actually within, I don't know, a mile or two down the street, there was a building. It was cool. It was a nice setting. It was just a small office with more workspace. So I want to say it was, probably about 2,000 square feet. So a little bit more than double. So we ended up moving over to there, which was, I thought, a huge deal.
Yeah,
I had to pay, oh my gosh, I had to put down, first and last and security deposit and all sorts of, oh gosh, it was scary. So we ended up moving, I want to say it was about 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And he was still with me. And that's when I finally decided, well, if this is going to work, I got to do this full time. And so I ended up, putting in the 2 weeks at Target and the warehouse and started going to the shop full time. And we've moved. So we moved from building 1 to 2. Then I got the second building in the same complex. And then I moved to where I'm at now. And I've been there for 12 years. So we've only moved 3 times and we've always got bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. So was there like a specific trigger point that made you think like, I need to do this full time? Was it just too many cars at the shop or, or the page just got, good enough that you were like, I can make this work? Was there one specific moment you can remember that you were like, yep, I need to do this?
So when the cover hit, I had the shop. So when the cover came out, I'm running to all the 7-Elevens looking for the cover and, no social media, obviously. But we were racing like every other weekend at Pomona. So it was open for us since, back then. And then, Palmdale was pretty popular as well. So we were racing my little car as much anywhere we could go. And it got to like right when the magazine cover hit and the car came out, cause we did like a build up. It was like 4 months in a row of a build up of the car. And then when the cover hit, it was like when I showed up at the races, everybody knew me all of a sudden.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And then everybody knew the car. And then now I'm, it's not like social media. It wasn't instant gratification. It took time. So you built something, you put it in the magazine, and you had to wait for 90 days for it to come out.
For it to even come out, yeah.
Yeah, and you're checking 7-Eleven every day. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to see this. So it took a long time, and then we show up at the track, and then one guy comes up, next guy comes up, and then all of a sudden it got to a point where, like, people were calling the shop, like, before the phone would ring a couple times a day. We'd only get business if we handed a business card out at the street race or, whatever. And all of a sudden it got to a point where, my one guy was so busy during the day that I was working so many hours. Like there was times where I wouldn't even be able to sleep before I went back to work. And then he'd be in before I left and we were just killing ourselves.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if there was a specific time, but I just figured, I looked at the money I was making and it was fun. So then I looked at, Target was great. I drove a forklift. Who cared? I just hung around, drove this forklift around,
Yeah.
made good money. It was easy, but it was boring to me. I mean, money is great, but I don't want to be bored. So I don't know if there was like one specific spot, but I just figured, man, maybe I can make this happen. You know what I mean? And Sean was always riding me because he had his shop and he was always riding me. Hey man, when you just going to jump in? Why you got 1 foot in? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like,
had a little support structure there, huh?
yeah. So it was just kind of like, you know what? I guess it's time. Let's just do it. And so I sat down and talked to my guy. I said, we're going to have good times. We're going to have bad times, but I'll always take care of you. I promise. Just don't screw me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Straight
yeah.
up. just come to work and let's get this done. It's going to be hard, but I promise, let's get it going, and I'll do whatever I got to do. And at that time I was living, I had an apartment by myself, so I ended up getting a roommate to help me out to kind of bring that down a little bit. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. I got a roommate in there and kind of brought that money down a little bit. And I had a brand new truck. I sold it, got a used Accord wagon, and kind of downsized my life to make sure that the money, and we just went for it. And then we started advertising, again, no social media. So everywhere we went, passing out flyers and, street racing a lot. Street racing was really big for us. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it was just time to go for it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. It's a lot of effort and work and hours, but that's a good slow transition into, having something that can sustain itself.
Right.
And so, I'm curious about this other person you had working for you. Does he still work with you, or how did you find that guy? It sounds like he was a pretty pivotal participant in, making it successful in the beginning.
Yeah, he was great. His name's Derek, and he actually has his own shop now. We're still friends. It's just, so he worked, we were about the same age, and he lived close to me when we grew up. I knew him, but not we weren't super tight. Mm-hmm. And he had a car that he had been building in his garage, a little Civic. And then, so we knew each other from races, and we knew each other, and his engine builder I dealt with as well. And just through passing of friends and stuff, we started talking. I was like, hey man, he was working at the Honda dealer local, but basic, like oil changes and, basic stuff. And I said, hey man, if you want to come in here and make some side money, let me know, because I needed help. Mm-hmm. And so he would come in after his job at night. And so we kind of set it up where he'd set me up. So when I come in the morning, I knew what I had to do. I'd set him up. So when he came in at night, so we were kind of just trading off. And then finally it got to a point where the trading off was it didn't really work. He was like, man, I can make more money just working for you. And so I was still, back with the small shop. I was still at the small shop, and he was like, I think I should just work full time. I said, cool. This is what I can offer you. This is what I can do. Obviously I'm not a Honda dealer, so you're going to give up a lot to come here.
Yeah.
But it's fun, and we can finish your car, and we can both race and have a good time. And 3-4 years of it was fun. And then he ended up, getting into a relationship, and at the time his girlfriend, which is now his wife, and they have 2 kids. So it worked out really well for him. At the time she was she just told him, she's like, I want you to have a real job. I don't want you,
yeah.
She just told him, and I understand her, I respect her for it. And she just said, I want you to have a real job. And so he ended up going back to the dealer, because he left on good terms. Yeah. He ended up going back to the dealer for quite a bit of years. And then about 5 years ago, he had an opportunity to buy a shop that was already running, similar to ours, more of a retail install shop again. But he had an opportunity to buy it, and he ended up buying it, and he's got his own business now. That's
awesome. That's good to hear. Great. Yeah. So, when he left, were you kind of stuck with nobody, or did you have some? Yeah, it was like, oh, what am I going to do now?
I thought it was a wrap. I really thought when we had the talk. I mean, we were, like I said, we were friends, so it wasn't it wasn't a bad thing. But he just came to me one day after work. He's like, hey man, we just need to talk real quick or whatever. Okay, cool. So we started talking, and he's like, it is what it is. He had to make his changes for him and his life and his future. And he gave me 2 weeks, and we tried to finish all the projects up we could. And I just was like, wow, I don't know what I'm going to do here.
Okay.
Because that's how, after I had already moved into the next building. And so I was already in the bigger building, I'd already quit my job. And so, I was mad, but then at the same time I was like, whatever. And I just figured it is what it is. I got to make it happen. So I just worked more, it is what it is. I just kept working. And,
Did you bring anybody else on board to replace him?
Yeah, so I found another guy. I mean, not as talented, but I found another guy. So then it just put me to work more. He ended up running parts, and answering the phone and helping clean and whatever. Yeah. But I mean, he helped, and he was a great guy. He worked for me for a long time, and still a great guy. And then we started getting really busy. I had a shop kind of a back of a complex. It was 2,200-ish. And it got to a point where people wanted to see more product. We just had a bay with a little office. And it got to the point where, all that part of the industry where tail lights and bumper lights and lowering springs, and people want to see everything. So I ended up in front of the complex was a storefront. Mm-hmm. Good storefront, no car bay, but a pretty good sized storefront. And, hadn't been rented in a while. So the landlord gave it to me for a pretty inexpensive. It was basically nothing. And I hired my sister just to sit up there, and I transferred all the phone calls there. So she could answer all the phones, and take messages, and I didn't have to deal with it anymore. And it was quick walk, like a 30-second walk from the other, super quick. So she needed anything, I could run up there. She could deal with all the retail, walk in the door, picking up taillights. We started selling those things, like taillights and corner lights.
Like the Altezza taillights.
Oh my gosh, we sold. I make fun of those things right now, but man, those things bought me my house. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
That's amazing. Well, wasn't that what the IS300 was called in Japan?
Oh yes.
Okay, I thought there was something about that. Yeah.
So they used, because the design of that tail light had that little red dot in it with the clear and the chrome. So everybody started copying it for the Chevy truck and the Civic and the Integra and the SRT and the Neon. I mean, everything. They copied it for everything in China. And then all those companies came out. There's a company that was local to us that came out that needed test fitting. So we would do all the test fitting for them. They'd give us a good deal on the parts, and then I would sell the parts to all these other companies. Man, I was making, it was ridiculous. But it was just a means to make money to pay the bills so I could do the fun stuff, which is turbocharging and everything else.
Yeah, and I mean, that's and just back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I mean, that's what people did. They would go to shops and buy stuff. That's just not really a thing anymore. It's
not a thing anymore. You don't have to. I mean, we make fun of it, but I mean, I wouldn't say victim, but I am on Amazon on my phone way too much. Oh, yeah. I need to take the app off of my phone. Like it is too easy to get anything you want nowadays. Back then, the customer would call me, "Hey man, do you have this for my car?" I absolutely do. "Oh, I'm going to come see it." Yeah. Now it's, "Hey man, do you have this? Can you send it to me?" I'm not coming down there.
I'm going to read some reviews and just pay for it.
Yeah, and I'm just going to PayPal you and send it to me. Back then it was, we were selling windshield stickers and visors, when you would do that dark blue visor along the top. 10 inches deep, or, and clear corners and tail lights and lowering springs and spark plug wires, colored, different. The accessory side of my business was 70% of the business. Wow. Very few people were still doing were even into engine swaps and turbo kits and roll cages. No way, no one was doing roll cages back then. You know what I mean?
Were you able to take advantage of like the Fast and Furious time?
So I don't know. I don't know when that movie came out.
It was like 2001 or something like that.
It was. We all took off, and a bunch of our customers, and we all went over to this local mall. It's got this big thing. We all watched it. And, it was a good movie, and it was cool. I'm sure fighters hate fighting movies, and baseball players hate baseball movies. So, there's a lot of stuff you could pick on in the movie. But at the end of the day, I think it brought us business, or at least awareness to the cars, because no one thought our cars could do, especially what they're doing now, but no one thought our cars could do any of that stuff. No different than, like Gone in 60 Seconds, that first scene is a Civic race and a Porsche. I mean, like, that was like, no one could even think that was fathomable. Like, no way you could do that. So when people, I started getting an older group of customers. I started getting guys that were, because back then I was low 20s, let's say 20. So I was dealing with 16 to 22, 16 to 24-year-old guys. They were barely making enough money to pay their bills, but they would save $100 each week to turn around and lower their car next month. Or, back then it was DC intakes and DC headers. And a header was $400. Can you imagine what it's like to be a 16 or 17-year-old having to save up $400? You know what I mean? Back then. So we started getting the older customers, and these guys back now were spending a lot of money. They'd come in and buy a header and an exhaust and an intake and lower the car all at the same time. And to us, that was like, wow, that's a lot of money. You know what I mean? Because they went from buying, just a header for $300 to spending $3,000 to do all that kind of stuff. Because back then, like a full Gretty exhaust was $1,000.
Yeah, like you can get exhaust for cheaper than that, like good ones now. So that was a lot of money.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and we were actually making real percentages, because back then Gretty, I don't mean to call it any company, a company. Back then, they were very, very strict. You couldn't buy their stuff online. You couldn't buy their stuff unless you were a dealer. You couldn't buy it third party. 7 shops couldn't buy together to buy into this company so one guy could give it to you. You know what I mean? They were very, very strict. So I had, at the time, and I used Gretty because they treated me so well, I bought into Gretty. It was $15,000. And I had to maintain a certain amount per year. But they gave me such a break. When I would sell their product, I was like, yes. Oh my gosh. I pushed Gretty so hard, because if I sold a $990 exhaust, I would make $400 and I would make the install money.
Yeah, then you'd put it in. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So pushing their product was easy. You know what I mean? It was great. Nowadays, unfortunately, everybody's competing for that $2, you know, so it's definitely different. But I think we did improve. I think I think the knowledge of the cars is better because of that movie. Absolutely.
Yeah, just kind of curious, because that really like spearheaded a lot of the import stuff, and you know, you were in the game before that, but if it can expand your customer base, that's really
absolutely,
you know, that's what I think that movie did for a lot of shops around the time, absolutely. Like early 2000s.
Absolutely.
So take us through like the worst experience you've had in business. Just one.
I mean, well, I would say as an overall, the worst experience is, to be honest with you, it's just I guess if I had to pick a word, the fraud that you deal with on a daily basis. I mean, I know that's not one specific experience, but every sale I make is stressful because I'm so worried with chargebacks, and I've had companies that are fake that bought a bunch of products and all of a sudden they disappear, they don't pay us. I mean, I would just say, you know, the pure fraud that, you know, I mean, I've been broke into. That's pretty hard to take, you know, to watch, you know, on my camera, someone break your glass in the front of your shop and steal a bunch. It's pretty violating. You know, I went through times where it was really rough. I would say if you wanted me to pick one word, it's just financial. That's the hardest part of the business. That would be the worst experience, is the financial. We're on a roller coaster every day. I mean, we are literally, I have a picture. I won't tell you when I took it, but I have a picture of my 3 bank accounts, my personal, my shop, and my savings. And not one of them, this one day, had over $50 in them. None of them. My shop account had 17 cents in it. And I have that picture on my phone. I save every day. I look at it all the time to remind me, like, it can't get no worse than that. It just can't. It just can't. We just went through a horrible time, you know. It was one of those things. I would say the worst experience business-wise is the financial part of it. I would say, because I don't have like a, you know, I don't have one. I would have to just say financial, man.
Well, so like, what did you do to get through that point where you were like practically like totally broke?
So I've always believed that if you just work, it'll happen. I mean, I know this is probably not the best thing to tell, like, say, your son or something, but at the end of the day, you know, the credit card company's not going to come and cut your hand off. You know, if you're late a month on your car, you know, Ford's not going to come take your car. It's going to take a little time. So I always just told myself, listen, just keep working. Like it'll happen. But then when you get that money, and just be responsible with it. You know, don't be, okay, there's 17 cents in your bank. Okay, guess what? You need to put more money in the bank. So figure out what got you to this point. Did you spend too much on product? Did you not charge enough? Did you go out with your buddies and spend money like an idiot? Did you buy something that you didn't need that you wanted? Wanted and needed are two different things. And I think that I kind of went back after I saw that on my bank's, my little thing or my phone. I can't remember where I saw it the first time, but after I saw that, I kind of sat down the next day and I kind of looked at like the last 4 or 5 months before, like, well, what got me here? Yeah. And there was a couple mistakes I feel like I made. And then there was, you know, I bought a little too much inventory because it was a good deal. And then, you know, I know exactly what I did. I bought some tools that I just thought I could afford at the time that I knew wouldn't make me money right away, but I can buy them. You know, I bought something for myself for the race car that I didn't need. You know, I just made a bunch of decisions just because it was always like, oh, you're always so busy. The problem is you always have to plan for the downside, not the upside. And it was a learning experience. And I'm glad it happened because that picture kind of slaps me in the face anytime I need it.
Yeah, it's a good reflection reminder on what not to do.
Man. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, and it wasn't all bad on the shop. I mean, I had guys that owed me a lot of money that I was chasing, you know, and at that time I was racing for a big manufacturer who owed me ridiculous amount of money that, you know, kept saying the check's in the mail, you know, and I was putting the money out while they're saying that, you know, so it wasn't all the shop, but at the end of the day, it's all my responsibility, you know.
Accounts receivable is nasty when it gets big, but
yes. Yes.
Well, very cool, man. Well, let's pause real quick for a commercial break, and then we'll be right back. We are hosting our next Essentials of Operating a Shop seminar during the SEMA show in Las Vegas on Wednesday, November 1st, 2017. We developed this one-day seminar to help shop owners rethink how they run their business. We cover topics like employee management, best practices for accounting, improving customer service, and many more. It doesn't matter whether you have been in business for 20 years or haven't even opened yet. You will get useful information and helpful business practices to improve the operations of your shop and be more profitable. You can find out more information about the seminar and sign up through our events tab on the Do It for a Living Facebook page or by visiting our website at doitforalivingpodcast.com. Okay, so Jason, tell us something that you're doing right now that's got you fired up.
Oh man, this fabrication stuff is just amazing. I can't get enough of it. We decided about 2 years ago to get into making a production style roll cage, and our goal is to literally make it for every car. I know that's a big goal, but I mean, we have over 250 part numbers already. And our goal is to make, we make a joke. We want it to be fabricator friendly. So I want to sell to your fabricator so your fabricator can install it for you and give you a good deal, and he can still make money. So there's other manufacturers out there that make these things, these cages that are pre-bent and pre-notched. And for a while, I was buying those and selling them to my customer, and I was constantly killing myself physically and financially because I would have to give the customer extra stuff for free because he didn't understand that. You know, I told him this cage was going to work and it doesn't. I got to supply more material and I got to spend more time notching it. So I think that right now, what's got me fired up really is just the fabrication side of the shop, that we are literally can build anything we want, and we literally are. It's just a matter of time. I mean, we're adding new cages to our list. I would say almost weekly, if not for sure bi-weekly. We are adding a new part number to our list, and with the lot we've had, unfortunately we've had three people pass away in the sport compact drag racing scene. And I'm not saying it's just because they're caged, but their cars were very poorly prepped for the amount of power and speeds they're going. And it's kind of nice, you know, to be able to supply a product that's a safety product. You know what I mean? I would say the fabrication has got me the most fired up. I love it. I'll go to work right now and weld anything you want. What do you need?
Well,
I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's actually a good segue into my next question. So, wanted you to kind of explain about the business, you know, transitioning from, you know, when you got your was it your sister that was selling parts in front of the shop? So like now you're doing like fabrication a lot and production, like production level fabrication. So walk us through like the transition period of like going from selling parts to like making parts.
So I know for sure it had to be, so I've been in this building for 12, almost so 13. I would say, 14-ish. I would say 12 to 14 years ago-ish. I don't know exactly for sure. I just got burnt out with, as much money as I was making and as fun as it was to sell. I mean, we were shipping 20, 30 boxes. And I'm not saying just a box of like one set of lights. I mean, 30, 40 lights to wholesale companies. And we were filling up a UPS little mini trailer every day. And it took us away from the swaps and the turbo kits and the dyno tuning and the fun. I didn't get to weld anymore. I didn't get to do anything fun. And then, you start dealing with the returns. Hey, man, I bought these springs and my car looks like it's at an angle. And, now my struts are squeaking. And, it got to a point where there was so much maintenance. And, the customer would pay back then, I think it was $200 or so to lower your car, Honda Civic, $200. And he was basically married to me. He owned me. Like if the car made a noise, if the tail light stopped working, it was because we lowered it. You know what I mean? So I got to the point. It's the
since you did this syndrome.
Exactly. The biggest issue was squeaky struts, but we would go through it. Hey man, you're going to take a strut. It's this big. It's not going to work. I would recommend. No, I don't want to do it. Okay, cool. Listening. That's your. What can I do? So we got to a point, and I got to a point where the amount of time I would spend with the customer to sell the product, and then the amount of time I would spend with the customer after, I really didn't feel like I was making, quote unquote, that much money. I was giving them so much of my time, and then unfortunately you have the issue of they don't ever want to talk to a girl, even though my sister was very knowledgeable. They didn't want to talk to, they always want to talk to the owner, So it got to a point where multiple things. It was taking up so much of my time, and I wasn't being able to do anything fun anymore. We weren't doing swaps anymore. We were so busy with all the little stuff. So I got to a point where it's kind of like, I want to do more hands-on. I want to do welding. I want to fabricate. I want to make manifolds. I want to do all these things. And I got the shop. We opened the shop so we could race more and work on my car. I had to stop racing to keep the shop going. So it kind of just, I was just kind of all over the place. I felt like we didn't really have a focus. And again, the fabrication side of it really intrigued me. I liked it. I wanted to do it. And anything I needed fabricated or welded or bent tube or something like a piece of aluminum, I need you to bend it at a 45 so I can make this ECU mount. I had to send it out. And anytime I sent it out to another shop, I was at their mercy of price and how long. And sometimes I would get the stuff back and I was almost embarrassed. Like, man, I can't get this to my customers. It's like crap. So I got to a point where there was so many things. And so we have another big joke at the shop is, I'm going to send it out until you screw me, and then I'm just going to start doing it in-house. You know
okay,
So we would send out, no joke, like the stickers. I would redo the stickers on my race car every event, different colors, different designs, whatever. And the guy started basically being flaky, so I bought a sticker machine, and we started doing it ourselves. You know what I mean? And I have a sticker company, so like it did really well. And then I would take all my turbo piping. Back then we'd use mild steel turbo piping. This was 15 years ago. I'd go buy, raw bends, and we cut it all down with our chop saw, and just super brutal, nasty caveman stuff. And I'd mark it with a marker, and I'd take it over to this guy and say, okay, match these two lines and weld it. And it would fit in the car when I brought it to him, and then I'd get it back, and it would be a little twisted. And you look at the line, I'm like, man, you're almost a quarter inch off. Yeah, like, man, like, it's not going to work anymore. Or the welds would just look like he didn't care. And it just got to a point where, okay, well, now I got to do my own turbo piping. So I bought a welder. And then, the dyno, I was driving all the way to Westminster. So from my shop, that was about an hour and 15-minute drive, and then towing, so 2 hours, traffic. And then the guy would charge us, oh my gosh, it was like, I would say $2 or $2.50 an hour, which whatever. I'm never going to talk to anybody about what they charge for their knowledge, but he'd be in his office talking to his friend or on the phone for 20, 30 minutes.
Billing you.
Yeah. And I'd still get billed for 6 hours. And I'm just like, wow, so I bought a dyno, okay, our next thing we're going to save up for is a dyno. We got a dyno. So every time I would send something out and people wouldn't take care of it, we would just slowly get it. And it became a point where now tools were my fun. And every time I could make my own thing, it was great. So when we transitioned into more fabrication, it's because people let us down and because I liked it. And now it's literally pretty much all we do. We have another joke. We have so many jokes. I literally do not even open the gate at the shop some days. Everybody gets in, we shut the gate, and we just go to work.
Yeah.
We have 3 lines at the shop with voicemail. We hardly answer the phone. I always return calls, but we hardly answer the phone because typically a guy who wants a cage drops off his car. I call him when he's done. You know what I mean? Or a guy who wants a crazy, typically those guys don't call every day, where the guy that wants his car lowered and his, intake, those guys call you 45 times. So the fabrication is definitely, I'm super happy we went into that for sure.
And so you said you had moved one more time. Did you moved into a bigger facility again?
So that has a huge story behind it as well. So I had the 2 shops, just really close to the 10 freeway. And my sister I was putting her through school to be a nurse because I knew she wasn't going to work for me forever. Got to a point where she was ready to start. And I was like, well, I can't have 2 buildings anymore. I can't run it back and forth. It was me and 2 guys. So it was 3 of us. And then she would sit up front. So 4 total. And it got to a point where I was like, well, what are we going to do? At that time, I was actually racing for General Motors. I was actually sponsored by them. We were racing my Cobalt. We were pretty much taking it all over the country. So it was me and 2 guys, and then I'd leave 1 guy at the shop and then my sister. So then that meant 1 guy in each building, which obviously isn't very safe, And I wanted to move into a bigger building that I needed bigger, period, because I wanted to kind of separate the race side of the car, the shop, the team, with whatever you want to call it. I wanted that to have its own little section in the shop. I already had my dyno, and 3 lifts. And then I still needed kind of an office, but not really. But just a little. And then I needed my retail side for all our engine swaps because we were doing crazy engine swaps. We were doing probably 2 or 3 a week easy. Maybe more than that. So kind of wanted to have 1 building, but 2, if you will. So we ended up finding just right up the street. We ended up finding a building it's 5,800 square feet, but it's 2 buildings. And the people who had it before us had just knocked a hole in the wall between it. So it was 2 offices. So you pull into it, it's gated off. 2,000 square feet parking. You pull in 2 offices, one on each side, and then 2 roll-up doors on each side, one on each side. I put the dyno on the one side with the race team behind it, and then I put my retail side with the lifts and everything on the other side of the building. And then we just made the office. We just knocked the wall down and made one big office. So we kind of had a storage, or we kind of had a display still for customers. My sister still worked there. She was slowly kind of transitioning into her new job. And then I had my guys on one side, and then I could work on my race car on the other side. And we've been there ever since. I went 12 or 14 years. I can't remember. I'd say 12 or 14 years we've been in this building.
And so do you rent that building?
So yeah.
It's kind of the crux, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't really have much, I didn't really have much guidance when I got into this. And that's probably one of I'd say the sad sides to the company and business. Is like, I didn't really get to enjoy it. I don't think I made all the greatest decisions.
No, you never do.
Yeah, I never really had anybody to help me and talk to me. It is what it is, but probably looking back, maybe it would have been better to try to buy something. I just never had that kind of capital and that kind of credit where I could, get a 6,000 square foot building. Mm-hmm. And I always felt it was just better to rent, because who knows? Even to this day, I could close tomorrow. Who knows? So I always felt like I don't want that huge responsibility. And it's also nice to call and say, hey man, just so you know, the roof's leaking, come fix it. You know what I mean? So, and the people I rent from are amazing. It's an older couple. They are very wealthy. They do not care. It's just like, hey, the roof's leaking. Okay. And then all of a sudden 3 weeks later, I have a brand new roof. Yeah. It's like, wow. Okay. I just got lucky. I got really, really lucky. And it's perfect. It's gated off. It's on a street that is literally all automotive, off-road. There's pretty much not one type of automotive part company on our street. There's a boat guy, a GoPed guy, a quad guy. Oh my gosh, Porsche guy. Everything. Powder coating. Hosins. We don't even leave our street. We never leave our street.
And what city are you in?
So I'm in Upland, California.
Okay. Yeah, just the concentration of performance shops, or actually just aftermarket automotive, anything in California just continues to blow my mind.
It is crazy.
Because out here in Texas, everything is very spread apart. So we have lots of, not square footage, square mileage of space to do whatever you want, so everybody's really spread out.
It's funny because I sell to a couple guys in Texas, and I always forget where they are at every time. And I'm always like, well, just call so-and-so. He's 9 hours from me.
Yeah.
What? Like, how far? Okay, I'm so confused, but okay. But yeah, it is absolutely crazy how big and spread out that is. When Sean was racing for Mopar, we would drive from here to Florida or New Jersey or wherever.
It's like a 3-day trip.
Right. Well, it was
a 2-day trip. Yeah.
It's 48 to 54 hours. It was 3 of us, and we would rotate 4 hours. So driver, passenger, sleep, and you would kind of rotate.
Yep.
And Texas was
the worst.
It felt like, are we? You didn't even care that you were still driving. You just said, "Can I just be in a different state?"
Yeah, nothing changes.
You're right. It was just like, wow, it was pretty crazy.
So that sounds like a pretty cool transition story. You've changed your business model several times to kind of meet the customer needs, and then back to what you wanted to do, the core business for yourself.
Yeah, so I won't even lie to you or try to be kind. I didn't really care what the customers needed. I wanted to do stuff that made me happy. I was making good money. I did what I'm doing well. I'm doing fine. And it got to a point where it didn't interest me. For example, I have a dyno. I tuned for a very long time. I got bored with it. I'm not taking anything away from tuners. Those guys are ridiculously intelligent and talented. To get in that computer and figure out how to make what I put together work perfect, I praise you. You're the man. I didn't like it anymore. I got to a point where, it just wasn't fun to sit on the dyno for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. I like to create and build stuff. So, here, I'll pay you to come tune this guy's car, but I'm going to be over here building a roll cage or a manifold or a turbo piping, or do something a little one-off, something cool with this intercooler, offset it, or, whatever. So I just basically got to a point where I'm going to do what I want to do. As long as I know what I have to make to live, as long as I can make that and have a good life and come home and see the kids and not be working 24 hours a day if I don't want to, then I'm happy. You know what I mean? Like, I just felt like the customers, they're going to come or they're not. And I mean, I don't know. I just felt like I needed to change for me, because I'm not going to be able to serve you if I don't like what I'm doing. You know, I need to enjoy it. And selling little knick-knack parts and making great money was really not interesting to me. Yeah. Just like I said a minute ago, I got the shop so I could fund my racing. I lost my racing because of the shop. So then when I got to a point where I was kind of being bored with what I am doing, because I got to do something I like. So we got the Fab is just what I love.
Very cool. Very cool. And so did you ever really do like maybe a formal business plan, or like some idea of what you wanted to take the business, where you wanted to take the business?
It was kind of just go for it. When I first opened the shop, I thought it was just going to be to rent a building so we could work on my race car, maybe make a couple bucks on the side to help pay for cool stuff. I still worked at Target, so I didn't really care. So I didn't really do anything in the beginning. But then when I ended up getting the GM actually contacted me after like we had so many covers. I had like, I don't even know, probably like in the high 20s magazine covers between the 3 or 4 cars I had built before GM contacted me. And one day somebody asked me that question, like, man, so how close are you to your business plan? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
They're like, so, you made a plan, like where are you getting these, steps done? Are you hitting your goals? I'm like, huh? And then I literally went home and I was like, I talked to my mom's, it would have been my stepdad. So I talked to him. I'm like, I called him that night. So, he owned his own business. Well, what's going on with this business plan? And he goes, oh, well, you do this. I'm like, so normal people do that, huh? And he's like, yeah, you got to have a plan, man. You got to know where you're at. And I'm like, wow, okay. So this is only a couple of years into the shop, so I was like, well, it's never too late, right? So I made like a 1 year and then like a 3 year, and then I just skipped right to 10 years. I don't know if I did it right or, what a real business plan looked like, but my 1 year was to be out of that little building and into a bigger building and have 2 employees plus me. And, the list is long, but I mean, just those were the gist of it. And I got that. And then, the 5 year was to have the dyno, have a race team, which the race team thing was kind of an optional deal. And really have, I felt like a real company, like insurance for my guys and insurance for the building and, putting away money for myself. I felt like, set the goals high. And, we got to that. And then the 10-year goal, which is far past, was to be racing full-time, which we hit with GM, and then doing other things of, the fabrication side, the dyno side, the tools, and getting less work done outside of the building. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. So, yes, I had a business plan, but not right away.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed to hear that. That's kind of the reason we asked that question is, and a formal business plan is a formal business plan, but, really just setting yourself with some goals, like some aspirations is really all you need to do, right. Say, okay, well, I'm this big, next year I want to be this big, or, I want to bring in, we don't like to advise people to hit revenue targets, but you just say like, I want to be this size company, or I want to make this much money, or I would like to have this, like, you said your dyno, like, oh yeah, right. I'd love to have a dyno in 2 years. Well, now you think about, what do I need to do to get a dyno in 2 years? I need to make $15,000 in my bank account so I can put a down payment on it, or something like that.
Right.
So it's really great to hear, that you've set, you had set some goals early on, and, whether or not it affected, the actual outcome is impossible to know, but it's always good to think about that kind of stuff. So tell us about like the employees at the shop. So how many people work there now?
So now it would be, just starting about 2 months ago. Now my son's full-time. So we have 4 full-time guys. And then I have 2 part-time guys. One of the part-time guys, I just call in when I need him we're still known for all the swaps and, dyno tuning and little accessory stuff. So I call him in for that stuff only, and that's appointment only. So he's more of a part-time or maybe just a, per job guy. And then I have a part-time guy that comes in and helps us prep material,
which he's pretty much full-time now because we're so busy, but he's theoretically a part-time guy to help us prep for material for roll cages and all our orders that we do. And then the other 3, plus me. So 4 and then 2 part-time guys. So 6 total, if you wanted to say the 2 part-time
Okay.
guys.
And what is your role? Like, do you work in the business, or are you like a manager working on the business?
Unfortunately, that's something I've always struggled with, and I didn't know I struggled with it until a few years ago. I have to touch everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a huge issue that I wish I could get away from. However, I kind of like it because, today, like, I watched one of the guys, my son, and he's fairly new at the shop. I mean, he's always been there part-time, but now he's full-time. He just graduated and stuff, so he's there full-time. I was watching him box up one of our wings, and it's just like, I was having a fit. Like, it's not how you box it. Like, this has to, it has to be a certain way to prevent damage or scratches. And when these guys open the box, I want them to see the product. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
so
have a reason behind it.
Yeah, I do, and I'm trying to teach at the same time, but we're so busy, it's hard to teach and work. So, I probably do too much. I'm the main welder for sure. I weld 80 to 90% of the stuff that walks out that leaves the shop,
Mm-hmm.
from our 25.5 full drag race cages to our, manifolds to everything else. My aluminum guy, he pretty much does his aluminum welding, but I'm always double checking it. I do all the phones, all the orders, all the invoicing. Again, my son's there now, so he's starting to slowly take over some of the phones and learning the products a little bit better, and the shipping's part of it. But yeah, I'm extremely hands-on. Like, I'm very hands-on. Sometimes I wish I have friends that own companies that, I go to their shop and they're sitting behind the desk all day and everybody else is working. It's just very hard for me to do that. Yeah. I've tried that. I've tried to sit in the office and not yell in a bad way, but yell at the guys, hey, don't forget we got to ship it. I just feel weird. I have to be, I have to be involved in it.
So you're still an owner operator, like you're the manager and you're the main tech.
Absolutely. I'm definitely an owner operator for sure.
So how many hours are you working then a week?
Oh man. It depends on what you would consider work. Like, is this work right now? You know what I mean? This is for the company, so I would consider this work. Some people would say, oh, that's easy. It's still work.
Yeah. Still got to do it.
Yeah. I get in the shop between 5:30 and 6 every day, Monday to Friday. We try to leave by 4:30, 5 o'clock at the latest. So it's, give or take, 11, 12 hours right there, times 5. I don't work Saturdays and Sundays unless it's a guy from, 8 hours away who can only pick up his car on the Saturday. Then I'll try to schedule, I'll come in the morning, do a dyno or two, or weld up a cage or two while he's on his way. I would say easy 70, 80 hours a week. And I'm not trying to, boast it. I'm on my phone, when we go to dinner, I'm on my phone when we're driving.
Yeah.
If someone else is driving, I'm on my phone. And it's not like looking at,
You're not hanging out on Facebook, huh?
No, I'm not. If I'm on Facebook, it's answering questions. If I'm on Instagram, it's posting a new part or answering direct messages. If I'm texting, it's, my girl, my son, or a customer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a huge list of people that I text. Mm-hmm. It's work. So I would say a minimum 70, 80 hours a week, a minimum.
So you're still putting in the hours, huh?
Absolutely, nonstop.
But sounds like you enjoy it.
I love it. I really do. My body is starting to slowly tell me that I shouldn't love it this much, but I'm slowly starting to feel it. But I absolutely love it. Like an example is on a Saturday, I say I'm not going to work on Saturday or Sunday, but if we're not doing anything and nothing's going on, it's like, so why don't I just go to the shop? And that's the thing. Like, I set up everything to be close. Like, I think I'm about 8 minutes from my shop. So, I could be there right now. I could be working in 20 minutes and I could work till whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's definitely a good setup for me. I love it. I'd go right now if somebody needed it.
Yeah, I can't understand the getting up that early though. I did that when I had an adult job, and now I'm like, I'll get up when I feel like it. It's a shift. It's a shifted schedule, but
I go through those. Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely go through those. There's sometimes where the alarm goes off. I'm pretty much up anyways, but the alarm goes off, and I'm like,
I'm the owner and I can sleep in, but I definitely feel like I kind of have to set an example. I mean, there's some times where I'm just worked. I'm just beat. Like, hey, man, it is what it is. And I don't have to explain. The guys don't say anything. But, there's just sometimes you're just worn out and you need it. But I want to set an example, especially my son's there now. He just turned 18. And, I don't want him to think that I'm, just because my name's on the building, we can, just slack off. I want to work. And, again, I love it. So it's not like I don't know how. I don't even know how people could go to a job they don't like. You know what I mean? Like there's just no way. I mean, you spend more time at work than you do anywhere else, even if you only work 40 hours a week. I mean, you're always there. Yeah. It's just like your employees. You have to like them because you're with them more than you're with your significant other. I mean, you have to. So I love it. I love it. I definitely love it. But the time doesn't bother us. And you have to think, especially during like the heat wave we just had, for Californians, we almost died. It was actually hot here, and we were getting in the shop at like 4 or 5 because by 11 o'clock it was 1:05 in the shop.
Yeah.
So we had to figure that out of, trying to keep in. We got 4 or 5 welders going, and so there's a plan to everything, I guess.
Yeah. We took the thermostats, or not the thermostats. We took the thermometers out of our shop. In Texas, so that you just don't know how
you
hot it is.
You don't want to know. And I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea because we actually got to a point where I have it right above my toolbox, and they'd walk 10. Oh my gosh! I'm dying. You weren't dying 2 seconds ago, but now you are because you know the number. Like, I think that's a great idea. I have to try that.
Yeah. Just if you don't know, it doesn't hurt you. So
right, exactly.
That's kind of the mentality there.
Exactly.
So walk us through like your primary sources of revenue. Like if you can give us just a little bit of insight of like what's the between manufactured parts and installs and parts you sell and all that kind of stuff. How does it all kind of break down?
So just top of my head. I mean, obviously.
I know you don't have your accounting open. Right
I don't have my QuickBooks open right now. To be honest with you, I would say our labor side of the business, which is we're very labor intensive. So we build these off-road trucks. We install all the tubing. We make all the motor mounts. We make all the swing arms. We make all the lower arms. We make all the fuel cell mounts. That's a lot of labor. Yeah, the material in there is good profit, because we stock so much, but it's not the profit. You know what I mean? We're making 30%, let's say on a tube or something. It's not a lot of money. When you buy the tube for 100, you make 130, and then you give 17% back to California. I mean, come on, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Our labor side,
the labor is where you always make the big profit.
Our labor side is huge. The manufacturing side is huge because we're manufacturing these roll cages, these pre-bent roll cages for the Hondas, Acuras, pretty much all the sport compact guys, and we're getting into domestic stuff now. I can't keep them in stock. I mean, they're shipping so fast, we can't keep them in stock. We're making them as fast as we can literally make them. We just bought 2 rotary benders just to help us make them faster. I would say manufacturing is our big. We do a lot of private label, manufacturing stuff for people. We build these electric bike frames that are all aluminum. So I would say manufacturing is probably the biggest part. Obviously, labor is always huge. Our retail sales are horrible because we just don't really care. I know that sounds mean, but we just don't. If you come to the shop, the gate's never locked, but if you come to the shop and you come in and you want to pick up a part and I have it, great. If you want to order a part and I can get it and you're going to pay me retail, great. But if I'm going to compete against, Craigslist and Amazon and 3 other shops, I don't even entertain it. Don't even talk about it. I mean, I had a guy today that we were going in circles with about it, and I just literally said, "Hey, man, I can't do it. Sorry, I don't have time for it." So our retail is minimal. Very minimal. It's horrible.
I think I don't know if Reed coined the term, the acronym, but he always called it OPP, other people's parts. It's just kind of a dying thing. Just retail sale of parts it's too hard to be competitive, and it's not worth your time as an install shop to try to compete.
Well, I found the install parts great if it works, if the part works.
Yeah. If you sell it to them and install it, you're going to sell the good stuff,
You're right. So the issue would be and became, I won't say any companies, but you would order, say, an intake manifold from a company.
and then you would pay, I'm just going to throw out numbers. None of these are correct. Let's say I paid $150. Let's say retail was $250. And let's just say the customer actually paid me the $250. So I make $100. Okay, great. Then he wants me to install it. Well, now I'm going to make my real money. I make, 4 hours at $95 an hour. Now I'm making good money. But then we go to install it, and the intake manifold, well, one of the holes is a little off. So now we got to drill it. And then, you put it on, and the throttle body, it hits the spindle, so the throttle cable doesn't want to hit. Now I got to scratch it up a little bit and kind of fix that. Oh, it requires a so-and-so throttle cable because this, the bolts are.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
by the way.
yeah. So all of a sudden, you're finding all these problems, and then, like I was mentioning a while back, then if an intake manifold ever has a problem, the guy's coming back to you, and then I got to deal with it. I don't get paid for that part of it. I don't get paid for the calls. I don't get so. It became a part. It became that part. Like a lot of the parts that are offered to our industry now are not great. They're just not great, and it's a pretty bad deal. It's pretty bad. That's why we only deal with very small amount of companies.
Yeah, you find somebody that makes good products and you stick with them.
I've stuck with I have a list of, I could probably 6 to 8 companies that I'll deal with, no problem. I answer their call, they answer mine. There are a lot of companies I won't even sell the product, and I prefer to buy from I don't know what's the correct term, but like mom and pops or like, grassroots guys like myself, or I don't know how you want to word it, but I prefer it because those guys care. The guy who's sending stuff overseas to make 7,000 intake manifolds, I don't think they're checking them all. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be one that gets one of the ones that's bad, and then sells it to my customer and stuff. So I prefer to deal with those guys, and I actually enjoy it a lot more now.
Very cool. And so for the, I want you to kind of explain the roll cage kits a little more. One thing being like, how are you promoting those and then selling them?
So when we started, we were doing one at a time. I told you briefly, I just didn't like the kits we were getting. I wasn't making any money, so I started doing one at a time. Then I figured, okay, well, I'm making more quote unquote profit, but I'm spending way more time because I was doing one at a time. And at that time, I was actually looking for a full-time fab guy that came from nothing sport compact. I had come to a point where I knew I needed a guy who was not from my market. Because the guys I was finding and hiring and part-time, they just wanted to work there so they could work on their own cars. So I needed, I just needed a guy who drove a, Toyota Camry to work every day that, I'm missing a hubcap, you know what I mean? That had a family. So you knew you'd come to work every day. A little bit older than the 25-year-old guy. Not that 25-year-olds are bad. It was my preference. And a guy who had a long-term goal, a business plan for himself, let's say. You know what I mean? Like I had a business plan. I wanted him to have a plan for himself. So I found an off-road guy. Those are the most spectacular workers you'll ever meet in your life. When it comes to automotive, the off-road guys are ridiculous. They do not care. They will bust their butts as long as it takes. And their brains are always working. They're thinking of new ideas, and it's great. So I hired this. Well, I had this guy coming in on weekends because he had a full-time job somewhere else. He was coming in on weekends, and I was like, "Hey, man, I really want to start this new product line on these roll cages." She's like, "All right, let's talk." So we sit down and we talk. He's like, "Man, that's a cool idea." And I showed him all the cages that were available. We actually ordered a handful from different companies to see them, just to look at them. And I'm like, "Man, look, their prices are really low, but look at the quality." Like I can't even know how they're selling them so cheap, but then look at the quality. The quality's not great. So we kind of went through it, and we were like, well, let's just bend up a few of our own. So I went out and bought like 3 different shells, EG, hatch, and coupe, and then a CRX. And we made our own cages. We made our own. We made all the measurements, and we made our own jigs. We did everything for them. And I said, all right, you know what? I think we're going to try this. So one day I just started posting it. Hey, we're going to make pre-done, bent. The main hoop is fully welded. You get the plates. They're sandblasted so you can weld on them. I'm going to send you instructions. I'm going to send you everything is pre-bent and notched. We say it's 99% ready to put in because every car is a little different. You may get an Integra that's been in an accident, so it's a little twisted, so the door bar might be a little bit off, but it's literally ready to install. We want to be your fabricator's favorite fabricator. So we want to send your fabricator a cage that he can pay. We retail them for $9.99 for most of them. So it is a little higher than everybody else. It's actually a lot higher than all the other prefab cage companies. but our cage is much more ready to install. So this fabricator can theoretically buy my kit and turn around and let's say for a Honda, they should be charging for a drag race guy at least $25,000 to $3,000. We'll do the math. If the guy's a good fabricator and he buys my kit, in a day he can make himself theoretically $2,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And fabricators at first they were laughing at us. There's no way, but I can do 2 cages in one day by myself. Well, my guys help me tack it in, and then I can weld 2 cages.
You can do all the finish welding.
Absolutely,
Once
I take my cage off the shelf. We actually had a guy on Facebook, kind of, no, everybody thinks you're a liar, so we had a guy on Facebook say that we don't.
You out, huh?
Right. He said we don't install the cages that we sell. When we install a cage at the shop, we make it for that car.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we basically had one of these guys, one of our promoters. We sponsor a drag race company or event promoter called Drag Race Nationals, and he was actually part of the post, and it was a pretty big post. And I try to be calm. Sometimes I get a little worked up, and I just basically told him, I said, anyone wants to come to my shop, bring a car ready to weld. You pick any cage off the shelf. You don't even have to tell me what kind of car you're bringing. Don't tell me the car you're bringing, actually. Bring the car, and then I have at least 5 to 10 of every cage in stock. You can
pick
any cage you want, and I will install it in under 15, not fully welded, but just tack it all in under 15 minutes. We did it in 8 minutes on FaceTime live, like full-blown, push the car in, the kid picked the shelf, picked it up, done deal, 8 minutes, done. That is the cage that I sell to every guy on the street, fabricator, shop owner, not kid in his garage. It does not matter. We sold a large amount of cages. I've had 2 guys have issues that posted it online that said they weren't happy and it didn't fit. The first guy put the door bars in backwards.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Not really sure how that could even happen. So I didn't even have to reply to the post.
Everybody else did it for you.
Everybody did it for me. Absolutely. And then the other guy put the A-pillars in backwards, and I didn't even have to reply to that post. However, I still sent both of the guys replacement parts and said, hey, listen, hopefully it works out. Here you go. Yeah. Hopefully everything's fine. But I just felt like that was just the way I just felt like producing something that, listen, look at our market, man. These cars are going fast.
Yeah.
These cars, you got street guys. I think this last weekend in Bakersfield, 2 quote-unquote street cars went 860. Come on.
Yeah.
What do they need? They need safety. And the problem is...
Yeah, they're going to get kicked out of the track.
Well, the problem is a lot of these tracks are so lenient, they don't know the rules. And a lot of these tracks that do know the rules aren't enforcing them. So it just became a thing as, listen, I'm going to push this product. It is what it is. My thing since day one, anytime I built you a car, the cage was part of the deal no matter what. If you didn't want to do it, then I wouldn't do your car. So I wasn't going to build you a 6, 7, 800 horsepower car and let you go out with no cage. It was just part of the deal. So it just kind of went hand in hand. And the cage thing has taken off. We buy so much material. Everyone in California, I buy from everyone, and no one can keep up if they run out.
That's amazing. Yeah.
I love it. It's great.
And you're doing it all in-house, correct?
Everything is in-house. We absolutely sublet absolutely nothing anymore. I stopped subletting. I'll be honest with you. I used to sublet stuff. Probably stopped that because I couldn't keep up, and I thought it was the way to go, and it's not. Probably about 8 years ago, I don't sublet anything ever. Now, I will call in guys to help us, of course. I'll call in guys to help us catch up on welding or fabbing or whatever, but we don't sublet anything at all out of the shop. If I can't do it, I'll refer you to somebody, but I won't say I did it and they'll pick it up from Joe and give it to you. Mm-hmm. All the cages are literally from unloading the material from the truck, the guy will pull up and bring us 2,000-3,000 feet of 1 5/8 chromoly. We load it in our shelf all by hand inside the shop. Everything's cut right there. Then it goes to our bender. Right now we use our hand benders because the rotary benders aren't set up yet, but they will be set up soon. Everything's notched by hand. We don't use any tools like any.
So how are you getting manufacturer repeatability by doing it that way?
So when I say notched by hand, we have a notcher that we set up, and we have actually 5 notchers. So we have each one set up at different degrees. I don't literally notch it with a grinder or anything.
Yeah.
We have each one set up, and it's by hand with a hole saw because the hole saw is really the only true notch that's not going to take too much material, so when the guy goes to weld it, he just doesn't burn through. There's a company that makes one that uses a miter bit that actually will grind in and grind in and grind in, but the amount of time it takes to do 1 notch on that, I can do 5 or 6 on a hand grinder.
Okay.
It's more expensive my way because the hole saws are $20 a piece, but they're repeatable every single time.
Yeah.
And then like all our benders are set up. So I have one bender that just does door bars. And then I have one bender that does all the main hoops, and I have one bender that does the rear bars and the main hoops. So we kind of separate each one so they're repeatable. And the dies, we double check the dies probably every couple weeks. I replace them all the time. And once we get into this rotary bender, it'll be game over. Like we won't even have to. I can't wait. So basically, like John's my main fabricator. His name's John. So he'll, if we got, I don't know if tomorrow's EG day, if we're going to bend up 8 to 10 EG cages, he'll bend up all 8 to 10 main hoops first, and then we check them. We measure them. We know the outer, the upper, we know the bends, we know exactly what they need to be. And if they get messed up, they go in the trash. It just is what it, or scrap. It is what it is. We use it for something else. And then same with the door bars. We know exactly. And then we have jigs that we double check here and there, I mean, we are human. The machines do mess up. It's not great. But for the most part, we have not had, I mean, yes, like I said, there's been a couple issues, and I've had a couple fab guys say, oh, man, you should have done this or you should have done that. But for the most part, I'm very happy with the outcome of the product that we're giving out, and we double, triple check everything. Yes, there's things we can do better, and we're going to get there.
Do you go to PRI and like salivate over like tube notcher machines? So
we'll go to SEMA and we'll go to PRI, and then we look online, and we're always looking at Mittler Brothers and Miller and JD Square. We're always looking at what everybody's got. Like like you mentioned the plasma deal. One of the companies that we used to buy from, that's how they do all their notching. The problem is it leaves so much slag inside. And the material's not clean, and then obviously the cleanup for me or my guys after, I might as well just notch it myself. Yeah. So we looked at the plasma table or the plasma machine, and not that it's not great, it wasn't what we wanted to do. Because the cleanup after is just it's extra. It's just one more step for us. So we just stayed away from that. There's another company that makes one that you kind of, I wouldn't say you drill it, but you kind of grind it. It's got the I don't even know what you call it, but it basically just looks like a big drill bit, and you can grind the notch down and grind the notch down and grind the notch down. The time it takes to do that, it's not feasible. Yeah. When I can get in there, we have our jig, we know how much to load in, we hit it with the hole saw, done deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So back to our original talk, for like promoting these products. So it's been a lot of like word of mouth and stuff. That sounds like that Facebook Live video probably helped out a ton just for validation and justification of the product. How about like on your website? Are you guys, listing all your products there? And have you built like a pretty extensive website around that?
Oh man, I feel like you just twisted the knife in my side right there. The website has been our Achilles heels from my entire owning. The entire time I've had this company, it has been my biggest ordeal. I had, the first guy came in, loaded a bunch of parts, nothing ever worked, you couldn't order it. The next guy said, oh, that guy's website was messed up. I probably, $500,000 invested into new websites. And to be completely honest, and it's so funny, I 100% honest with you, I was at a restaurant with my girl having breakfast, the most amazing breakfast. We're sitting there, and next to us was like a I don't know, like a bar / pool thing where you go sit at the pool all day and pay all this money to listen to music. Okay. They had all these bouncers. Long story short, the bouncers, I don't even know why he started a conversation with us. He starts talking to us. We're sitting there talking to him. He's this entrepreneur. Of course, this guy's going to be a millionaire. He says, check out my website. And I said, well, who built your website? Because I ask everyone. I did. Who built your website? He goes, I did. I'm like, no, you didn't. He goes, no, I did. Check out this link. And he gives me this link. I came home. I showed it to my son, again, 18 years old. And we're redoing our entire website. I've never been so happy with it after 20 years of having a shop. So the website, I would say, is probably the least thing that's helped us over the years.
Not a helper at all. What, huh?
Not at all. I mean, but to be honest with you, I know it's going to be huge for us once we get it done, because I know it can take a lot of time away from me on the phone, because people want to ask questions that are on the website now. And I know people want to look. People want to see pictures. People like pictures. They want to go online and see Steve's car that's an EK that's got a 10-point cage that we put in so he can buy the same one. I know that. So we're definitely working on that. Social media is absolutely huge. I made a post when we first said we're going to do the cages, and I got like I first opened the social media and I got 500 followers or something, whatever it was, and I got 12 likes on this new cage, and I was okay. I guess is that good? That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
And now we post a picture of a cage and we get 400 or 500. You know what I mean? So it's a huge deal, and you can reach you reach the entire world. I mean, maybe even Mars. I don't know. You reach everyone through social media, so that's huge for us. And to be honest with you, a few, and I never thought I'd be able to use this word. I sponsored a few people cages, and then I never thought I'd be able to give away stuff like that. That's a good little chunk of change to give away a cage, And I quote unquote, I hate saying sponsored because I always felt like
they were
sponsored.
your brand ambassadder.
Right. That's right. There you go. My brand ambassador. So I looked around and I knew a guy back in Florida that was he just had this crazy car. His name's Noel. They nicknamed the car M80. I don't know where that came from, but he was a street racer turned track racer. And obviously going from the street, didn't need a cage. And now all of a sudden he was going to the track and he's getting kicked out all the time. And he made a post about, okay, time to do some safety stuff. And, he had all these followers and he had this guy Maps that drives his car for him and just a good group of guys. And I was like, you're going to be my brand ambassador. I'm going to send you a cage. So I called him up and I said, hey man, you don't know me from the next guy, but I'm going to send you this cage. I promise you it's going to work. I promise you it'll be easy install. And it took about a month. He wasn't really sure. And whatever reason. And he was getting quoted up, and he's like, man, I'm getting quoted like $4,000 or $5,000 down here. And I'm like, wow, it's just crazy. So I spent a little time. I found a shop to install it. I called the shop. I said, listen, if my cage doesn't go in a day, I'll pay your time. And the guy, VR Fabrications down in Florida, he goes, okay, man, if you're willing to stand by your product, cool. He goes, it'll be, I'm going to charge you by the hour. If it's one day, we're good. If it's more than that, you pay the difference. I said, cool. So I sent him 2 cages, one for free to test on his own car and one for Noel and Robert. And the guy calls me up he got the cage on a Tuesday. And he calls me on Thursday and he says, seriously, send me 5 more. I'm like, what? So I give away 2 cages. But he bought
sold 5, yeah.
Yeah, so then Maps and Noel, every post they do on Instagram, every single post they tag us, obviously that's priceless. I couldn't put a number on that. And then I wanted to get into another market, and so I found a road race guy and I found a drag race guy, and then obviously I found a land guy. I found all the different guys to try to off-road. I tried to find the guys that that were interested and needed the product, but that would also support the product, because it's easy to take free stuff, but not a lot of people stand behind it. Miles with his Integra, he was racing that car. Man, this guy's doing 160 to 180 on an average with no cage in this car. Come on, guy.
Yeah, super sketch.
Seriously, guy. Seriously. So I called him up. We had a little conversation. I think he thought the same thing, kind of like, man, who's this guy? I sent him an email. I broke it down. Listen, I'll give you the parts. I'll give you the cage. You just pay the shipping. Just pay the, help me out a little bit. And he's like, okay, cool. And then I ended up just paying the shit. I just did everything for him. Yeah. I said, put this in the car. I understand stickers and sponsors pay you money. I would appreciate if you could at least just, mention it a few times, make a few posts, whatever. This guy ends up putting a sticker on his car. He just did a video last week on Instagram. He's showing our logo. Come on, you can't put a price on that. You can't put a price on that. And so I would think giving the product to the right people and supporting the right people and always standing behind your word, you know what I mean? And Instagram has definitely kept us going.
Yeah, that's cool to hear. Getting people that'll promote your product is definitely the best way to get the word out there. And you do take the risk of them not holding up their end of the bargain. But
yes, absolutely.
But and the Instagram one, that's one that we're always curious to know about, because it's, exposure is cool, but it's really hard to measure sales conversions from Instagram.
It is.
A few places are figuring out ways to do it. You can put a special link in the description to go buy the product, but then you got to have a cool website that'll allow you to do that. So
right, it is, because I'll do quick sales. I'll do a flash sale, a day sale or something. If you buy the product today, it's super cheap, blah blah blah, and you'll sell a handful of products, but that doesn't mean it was just because of the it's hard to keep track, and I used to beat myself over the head how to keep track of everything. I just gave up. I tried to keep track of who was buying because of a phone call or the website or Facebook and then Instagram. I just listen. The sales are coming.
Yeah, it's part of your sales funnel. It's just one other thing to remind people about your business.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, I'll be curious to, I'll follow up with you about the website, because that's something that a lot of shop owners struggle with, and a lot of them don't know how easy it's become now.
Listen, well, not to cut you off, but
Yeah.
Did you see how long it took me to get the Skype going so I could call you? Okay.
Yeah.
So that being said, I'm loading pictures and descriptions and upgrades and options and stuff on this website just in the middle of the day while I'm having lunch for fun. I absolutely love it. It is, I love to take something I've made, put it on a picture, and now it's on the website. Like people are calling me all the time. Hey man, I need to buy your filters, but it's not on your website. It will be in 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes.
I got
you know
it.
what I mean? Bam, it's on the website. And it's absolutely amazing. And again, I'm sure everybody has a reason to put down another person or whatever. And I don't mean to put down anybody when I say things, but I just have not had a lot of luck with web designers. It's just me. Maybe it's me.
Oh, I promise you, it's not you. It's it's so hard to validate what they're going to tell you, and it never works out. And usually shop owners will trade. Oh yeah, man, I'll install your turbo kit for a website, and then you put the turbo kit in, and then they don't produce anything.
And I found that a lot, and they always blamed it on me. It was always like, okay, so so-and-so did your website. Oh, man, we can't use that one. So we make you one. It's $2,500 to start, and then it's blah, blah, blah. And then
it's fully custom. Yeah.
Right. And they would put up this new page, which now I found was probably $50, but they would put up this new page and it looked all great. And I was, I love that. I love pictures. I love new stickers and new shirt designs. Man, I do a new shirt design every week. So I love that stuff because it's your name and your company. It's branding. I love it. So they would hook me. And I'd see this new website. They bring up the homepage, and it's like this picture of a car burning out, and my dyno room, and the shop, and everything's cool and flashy and great. And then all of a sudden, they send me an email a week later. Okay, so I can't load any of your pictures. You have to send me all the descriptions and all the pictures, and I need them sized to this. And I'm like, I don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. It's too hard that way.
Right. I have a photographer that's a buddy of mine that I pay. Go on his website. All my photos are there. You do it. I'm paying you for that. You know what I mean? And then I get frustrated, and it's just over with.
And it never works. Yeah.
Right. This new website thing is super basic. It's not all crazy. It's just basic, and it has my parts, and customers can see them now, and I'm so happy.
Yeah. As long as they can search them by vehicle, I think it's great.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's take another quick break here, and then we'll be right back.
We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial.
Okay, so, it sounds like you're, really excited to be working there. And, does the pay justify the amount of time that you spend working at the shop?
I mean, I know what the answer should be, and I know what I want to say. No, it doesn't. I mean, if you were to take the amount of hours and stress and time and knowledge that I put into this company, or any of my guys, to be honest with you, and if we were brokers or something, we'd be millionaires. I mean, you know what I mean? But we enjoy it so much, I would say yes. It justifies it. It is. It's amazing. We love it. We have a great time. This is why we do it. I mean, I love to see. We just finished a GTR. The guy was so happy. I was just cursing an hour before about how this bolt wouldn't go back in the seat, and I was so mad, and I was so freaking out, and I got up and walked out and came back in and smashed my finger and hated it. But when he came in and shook our hands, and he literally walked around and thanked every one of my guys, even the guys that didn't work on his car. I mean, we gave him a shirt, and he hugged me, and I'm just like, this is why we do it. You know what I mean? This is what we do it for. So
that's awesome.
I would say, yes, it justifies it because I love it. But if you were to take the pure amount of hours that we put into it, we probably don't make the money that most people think we do.
Yeah, I think that's the case with pretty much all the shops. It's a passion-driven business, and you spend a lot of time because it's fun.
Yeah, I wish they would. I think they would. I think most customers, if they just came and hung out, not a day, that's not fair. They need to come for a week. If they would come to the shops for a week, or even with what you're doing right now. I mean, it's 9:30 at night for me. I mean, I don't know what time it is
Yeah,
for you.
I'm in Texas, so it's 2 hours later.
So it's 11:30 at night for you. You sound like you are having a great time. I could talk to you till midnight my time if you want. I mean, so if you're doing what you love, who cares? And I've told customers so many times, like, come hang out with us for a week, man. You'll understand why I charged you X amount of dollars to do the work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work what we do, but we love it. Like, my shop is pretty laid back. I mean, we have DirecTV in there, TVs in both sides. If baseball's on or whatever, let the guys watch it. We have, every type of whatever app you need for music these days playing. Everybody can play whatever music they want. We leave for lunch. We barbecue once or twice a week. I feel like if the guys are happy, this doesn't sound great, they're making me money. If they're making me money, the customers are happy because that means cars are going in and out. And then guess what? I'm happy. So I love the shop. I will go work right now. If you wanted to meet me there, obviously you can't. But if you wanted to, we would go and walk around the shop right now. I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's cool, man. So what's something that you do differently that makes you successful, kind of in your business that you can kind of share with our listeners?
So I don't know if I have a specific answer. I have a few ideas. I would say I always give you more than what you pay for. I promise you that. You know what I mean? Like, and it might even be little things like every guy who gets a wing gets a shirt. I had a guy email me or message me on Facebook literally just before you and me got on the phone. He's like, "Hey man, just got my wing in today. Looks amazing. Can't, super, super happy. I'll have it on for this weekend, blah, blah, blah." And he paid good money for that wing. They're not cheap. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of work to install it. I mean, the shipping was $85. I mean, so, the guy spent a lot of money on this part, and he said he said, and what made me the happiest about this entire sale was how you stood by everything you said. It was here early. It's exactly what you said it would be. And he said, the effing shirt you gave me is amazing. Nice. He said, I've spent so much money on my car and I've never received a free shirt from any company I've ever bought from. So I always try to make the guys happy. Send you a koozie, a hat, a shirt. I mean, I appreciate your business. You're paying for me to have a house. You're paying for me to live, to support my family, to support my employees. So I think you just have to under-promise and over-give. Like, don't tell the guy it's going to be done Friday if you don't think it's going to be done. Tell him it's going to be done Monday, but get it done Friday. So just and stand by your word. If you say something, you have to do it. There's been times I've lost money. I promise you. I messed up. I just did it last week. I messed up on a sale, didn't think about pricing. I didn't specify states and screwed myself up, but I still sent the parts. I don't care. I said it. I posted it. The post is still up now. I messed up, but it wasn't the customer's fault. It was my mistake.
Yeah, you just ate it.
I just ate it. You know what I mean? Shipping to Hawaii cam gears is not cheap, just so you guys know. definitely make sure you keep track of shipping on that stuff. But I feel like that's what we do different. If I tell you I'm going to be there at 6, I'm going to be there at 5:30. You're never going to wait on me. If I tell you the product's going to be ready on this date, it's going to be ready. If the price is this price, I'm never going to change my price on you. I just think that I think we always just stand by our word, and I would like to say we put out a really, really good product. I feel like we put out a really, really good product.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So, how about this? What's something that you struggle with in business, and how do you deal with it?
Telling people no.
So you're a yes man.
I have a hard time. We can again, I don't want to sound, whatever, but we can pretty much build and do anything you want. You can bring us any car you want. We'll put any engine in it you want. We'll put any roll. We can build you. I don't care. You bring us something, we can do it. I mean, obviously, if your budget's there in the time frame, and I have guys that'll call me for jobs, and it's like, I already know it's going to be a headache. I already know it's going to be way over their budget, and I already know that it's going to wreck me. I'm going to be working crazy hours or whatever it may be. It's really hard for me to turn down people because I know it's what they want. I know they really want this cool new car or this engine swap or this weird bumper for a Jeep or, you know what I mean? Like I have a really hard time telling people no. And I would say the second part to that is you struggle with employees. I would say employees are probably the hardest part of the business. Yeah. But saying no is a difficult thing for me. If you told me you wanted to do this interview at 1:00 in the morning, I would do it.
You'd be like, okay.
Knowing I need to sleep. I need to sleep, I would still do it just because I don't like to say no. I like to make everybody happy. I want to make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, yeah, that's one that a lot of, I see that with the guys they come up with racing, and they remember the people that helped them out, and then they want to be the person helping out. So
Right.
it's
Right.
it's a bummer, because you overwork yourself, but you're doing it for the right reasons. So maybe try to say no once a day. That's your new goal.
That's what, it's hilarious because today we had a really good customer. He's a shop. He sends us all his fab work, and we work on his car. I sponsor his car, like full-blown sponsor, like pay and the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a job there that he wants us to put he wants us to make a front-wheel drive car, rear-wheel drive, put a K-swap in it, and all these things. And I kind of looked at it and I'm like, that'd be pretty easy. And then I looked at the shop of how much work we have and the list of people waiting, and I'm like, man, I love you, dude, but I don't know if I can do it. Let me look. And it's, come on, buddy, I know you can. And then I'm like, yeah, that's great, buddy. Bring it. And then John looks at me, he goes, okay, the word is no. It's just 2 letters. You just have to say it. I'm like, yeah, but we can knock it out. He goes, we can. We don't have time.
Yeah.
He's like, so I'm looking at it, and then I'm like, wow. Like I started looking at all the pictures, and I'm like, this is way more work than this customer thinks.
Yeah.
So you just have to learn. You just have to learn. And it's hard. It's very hard.
It's very hard, yeah. So, okay, we talked about, your business plan. Do you have a 1-year goal for the business?
So right now, funny story, like 7 weeks ago, going through some, nothing bad personal, but going through some personal stuff, nothing bad. Just some personal stuff, just trying to figure out, my son just turned 18, just graduated high school. So, I'm kind of wow, he's 18. I have two other children. And just trying to come up with like a personal goal that obviously is rooted from the business because that's what pays for everything. So just kind of going through some things mentally and looking at bills and looking at things at the house, let's say. I mean, as many hours as I put in at the shop. I mean, you go in your backyard and you're like, man, I haven't been here in 6 months, and,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What is this place?
Wow, I have a backyard. That's great. So I kind of sat down about 7 weeks. Actually, was just talking to somebody about it yesterday. 7 weeks ago, I kind of sat down and said, you know what? I think it's time to pause. And no more new tools at the shop. I mean, of course, unless you need them, but no big investments. No more crazy stuff to all our toys. I have 3 or 4 sand rails. I have all these toys. We're going to take 1 year, and everybody thinks that's a long time. It's really not. We're going to take 1 year, and we're going to aggressively keep going with the shop. And we are aggressively pay off everything, and we have a goal to, in the next year, I don't want to say this, hopefully it doesn't jinx myself. And the next year is finally buy a building, because I think we're at that point.
Yeah.
Finally buy the building. Then we have a list of 3 tools that we're going to get, pretty big investments that we're going to get in order. So it's the building. It's actually 1 tool, then the building, then the next 2 tools. We have that goal for the next year. And to be, again, I don't want to make it sound like anything's bad, but to be debt-free personally. And I'm not like, I'm not going bankrupt or anything. Just to be debt-free. I have a couple more credit cards that I hate.
Not have all the cars paid off,
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Right. That's our goal. And that's obviously business. It doesn't seem like it is, but it really is, because the business controls everything. So, and the business has a little bit of debt, but nothing crazy, because I don't have any loans against the business. I don't have any credit cards with the business. I pay right away. I have some terms with some companies, nothing crazy, but to be debt-free for personal and the business, and that little list of goals, and to get our cherry on top would be to get my my race car back on the track. That was
nice.
our plan.
Yeah. So, business owners rarely get to race anymore. It's not.
Right.
It's pretty rare. So what about your lofty goal? What about 5 years from now?
So the 5-year goal is for me and John. We make this joke, but we literally have it on the clipboard, to stop working. Our 5-year goal is to have replaced myself with a full-time welder, and replaced him with a full-time, basically, fab guy, where he and I can just kind of manage the shop, his side of my shop type thing. And in part of our goal, I try to include my guys is to help him get a house by then, because he's new family, just about to have a baby and stuff. So for him he actually lives in one of my rental houses, but our plan is for him to either buy that house from me or get his own house. And then, obviously, hopefully we'll be in that, because 1 year, 5 year, hopefully we'll be in that new building. And we want to have a CNC machine, our own stop sending stuff out machine.
Yep. Just
And have
keep
it all there.
checking them off the list, huh?
Right. That's our plan. I mean, our biggest part of that is he and I to be able to actually kind of step away. I mean, we'll still work, but just step away and be able to control it a little bit more and work when we have to versus all day.
And more of a shop manager role rather
Correct.
than a mechanic role.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, let's close out and kind of move on onto the quick answer questions here. So just kind of whatever pops up into your head here.
Okay.
What's a game-changing product that you've seen in the last year?
I mean, obviously the electronics for the drag racing side, the electronics is ridiculous. I mean, you can't even keep up. I mean, we got guys using GPS to keep track of traction control. I mean, we got boost management that, I mean, you literally, no offense to drivers, because I'm a driver, you literally just got to push the gas and go. Yeah. I mean, you almost don't even have to drive these cars anymore. The transmissions are I mean, cuts and stuff like that. It's the stuff we didn't have when I was racing in the late 90s, early 2000s. I would say the electronics, like Motec, it's unbelievable the stuff that you can do through that. I mean, I would say the electronics. I would have to say Motec and the electronics when it comes to, like, say, drag racing. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the fabrication side of it, of the business, I would say Miller and JD Squared have come out with these tools that help me save time. It's unbelievable. The tube notchers and the cutters they have now, and the new presses they have now, and the new dies, it's unbelievable. I'm saving so much time. I love them. I love these guys.
Yeah, having tools that help you do your job faster, huh?
Time is money.
Exactly. What software programs are you using daily?
We use absolutely nothing. I mean, we don't do any. I mean, other than our invoicing, we don't use anything. We don't use any type of. A lot of people think we have like tube bending software, like we use these measurements for the cars. We put it in the computer and it does. We don't have anything. We have absolutely nothing. It's raw caveman. Go for it.
Do you have a favorite app like on your phone that you use every day?
To be honest with you, it's going to have to be the Instagram, because it makes me
Instagram
so
and
much
Facebook.
money.
Yeah,
Instagram and Facebook, because I post the stuff and it makes me so much money, and then FaceTime with my kids. Like,
very cool.
Those three things are like the only thing I use.
When you're out in the shop, what's your favorite shop tool?
The favorite shop tool would be the welder, for sure. My welder. I love that thing. It helps me do everything. I love it. I weld all day long if I could. Like,
is it one of those like giant cabinet size water cooled ones?
So we have those are the old like synchro waves back in the day, and huge. They had to be the size of a refrigerator.
Okay.
We have two of those, but then we also have the new stuff, which is like the Dynasties. We have two Dynasties, and they're water cooled and everything too. But the Dynasties are a lot more high tech, and they're like literally you could carry them on your back now. I mean, they're super small now.
Wow.
And me and John use the Dynasties, and Aaron and Seth use the Synchro Waves. It's just different technology, just newer. You don't have to worry about color tungsten as much. You don't have to the switching on the go. You have wireless pedals, all those cool things. I would say the welder for sure is my favorite tool. The dyno used to be, and now it's the welder.
Yeah, a wireless welder or the wireless pedal. That sounds wonderful.
It's amazing because you figure you can't do anything with the torch because it's got to be, the cool. Yeah. It's got to have hot and cold and the gas. You can't do anything with the ground wire because it's got to be grounded. So you already got two wires in this car that you're trying to weld up a cage. You got crap all over the place. So then you add that third of the pedal with the cable. Well, they came out with that Bluetooth style. So now I can just carry the pedal anywhere I want to go. I don't got to worry about the cable.
That's very cool.
One less thing. I love it.
That's awesome. So, what is your like daily driver? Like, not, you said you're trying to get your race car going, but like, what are you driving to and from the work every day?
Every day I drive my Chevy Dually. I got it's 2008 Chevy Dually on like 22-inch like black wheel. I don't even know black wheels. It's red, tinted windows. It's got stock everything. Little stereo system in it just to cruise around. It's a shop truck. That's what I drive every day. People laugh at me, but I have a bunch of cars. I have too many cars, but I just don't do it anymore. Just jump in the Dually and go. AC works perfect. Yeah, AC works perfect. I love it.
How many miles you got on it?
I think it's got. Yeah, it just turned 102,000.
Oh, so that's nothing for an 08?
Yeah, like I said, I only drive 8 miles, not even 8 miles, 8 minutes to work. So I don't drive much. The one I traded in to get this had 400,000 because it's the one we could go racing with.
So it would go coast to coast several times.
Yeah, we were Florida 3 or 4 times a year, easy.
Awesome. So where do you see the future of automotive performance going?
Up. I mean, just with all the stuff, the new stuff that's coming out, like you literally can't I mean, Facebook and social media keeps you a little bit updated, but you could be on your phone all day reading and not read enough stuff. I mean, there's something new every single day. I mean, we got for instance, these Hondas. I mean, we got quote unquote full body street cars going in the 9s and in the 8s on the East Coast. We have these domestic guys like these new Fords and stuff coming out of the box going 9s. I mean, not even really worked on. I mean, the performance is unbelievable. We got the Evos and stuff. These road race guys are breaking records every weekend. I mean, it's just, look at Miles. He just went 200 miles an hour in an Integra. I mean,
front wheel drive car. Yeah.
Right. I could go to any bar in your town or mine and sit down and talk to the first male you've seen, and they would bet their life against that. There's no way they would believe that.
Yeah.
We're just going up and up and up. And it's not just the cars. I mean, the boats. And the automotive industry is man, it's amazing. I look forward to every day seeing something new.
And so you're trying to get everybody safer.
My job right now is we're trying to figure out how to make, we make a kit that's good for 850s. We overdo the tubing. We overdo everything. So, theoretically it's safer than what the NHRA requires. Mm-hmm. We just came out, we haven't released it yet, but it will be in the next month or two. We just came out with our 750 kit. We're already making 650 kits in the shop that's good for 200 miles an hour, front wheel drive or rear wheel drive, but we only do that in-house. We don't sell those kits yet. The other two are very close. I mean, the 750 kit's very close to being retail, but we're only going to sell that to a fabrication shop because it's like 47 different tubes. I mean, it's just way too much to give some guy in his garage, But, and then we're coming up with new seat mounts that we just came out with, new seatbelt stuff. We're working with Crow Enterprises. It's a seatbelt company on some new stuff for sport compact guys because safety-wise, I mean, we really want to look at that,
Yeah, it's hard for people to spend money on safety stuff.
It's the last thing.
Yeah, we see it with road racing with like telemetry, GPS data and track data. Like they want to spend money on go fast bits, but not the safety or the the electronic equipment. Right. So yeah, it's usually the last thing. So you've got a good angle at it of making it more attainable. Because
not the least expensive, but we're going to give you the best product, so it's very obtainable for most people. I mean, our pricing structure makes it pretty easy to get. If you don't want to buy it, that's because your choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. So how do people connect with you and your company, like your website and Facebook and phone number and email, anything like that?
So the website, and we're constantly working on it. We have 2 domain names. It's whitfieldmfg.com, and then we have whitfieldfab.com. And then our Facebook page is Whitfield Company /Rage Induction Products. That's because it's so old, I never changed it. And then most people connect with me on Facebook through my personal name just because I think they just know me that way. It's with the shop, it was just under Jason Whitfield. That's how most people come find me. Our Instagram page, we have 2. We have Whitfield MFG. And then we have Whitfield Aluminum, which is our new aluminum pages. We're making all the new seats and dash covers and belly pans for like when you blow up at the track. So our aluminum page is a little different. Email and phone number. So our email would be jason@whitfieldmfg.com. And then all my other guys are listed on the page, but I'm the primary one. The phone number, we have 3, but the most important would be 909-608-7123. And then 909-373-RACE, RACE. That's usually the easiest one to remember. And that's pretty much every way you can reach us. And if you can't reach us that way, because there's direct message and everything else, you'll get a hold of us.
You'll get a hold of somebody. That's good.
Yeah, I promise.
Well, man, I really appreciate, again, you taking some time and telling us your story and all the stuff you got working on. It sounds like you got a lot going for you.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. It keeps us on our toes, and I really appreciate you giving us this opportunity. I was looking forward to it. I'm glad we got the computer and everything working. And I'm glad we got to do this. I really appreciate you giving us the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone.